Hmm. Good evening, everybody. Get into shape, I guess, for here. I'm here to do a. We're gonna have regular tastings and reviews between both Rob and myself that'll go on up on YouTube and up on a few other video places for the Uncanny Spirits Club. But in the meantime, until we have that all set up, I'm going to be doing some smaller reviews here and there during the week and leading up to our target date. And one of the reviews that I'm going to do is I'm going to be doing a taste comparison between two of the more dominant Scotch types that are out there in the world right now. One of which is the Island, the Islay. I don't know how to say it. I should look it up probably, but it's one of the dominant forms of Scotch that's the more peaty generally. And for that, I've got the Ardbeg Ultimate 10-year, and pretty fancy looking box. Ardbeg was on my list of stuff that I'd always wanted to try, and yeah, I'm super interested to give it a try. And I'm going to be stacking that up against another heavy hitter from the Highlands of Scotland, the Glenfiddich. And this is the Glenfiddich 15, so it's been aged for 15 years. And it's a single malt as well. And this is from sherry casks. That's another one of the differences that you usually get between Scotch whiskies. You usually get some of them are in American oak barrels, some of them are in old bourbon barrels, some of them are in sherry casks. And a lot of your Macallans and your Glenfiddich and a lot of the upper crust Highland Scotches are distilled or stored in sherry casks as opposed to the Ardbeg. The Ardbeg, let's see where it says. It is, and it does not say on the box here what type of barrels it's done in. But the difference here is that the Ardbeg uses peat, and the Glenfiddich does not. So they're two completely different flavored profiles as far as Scotch goes. So go ahead and get this out of the box here and open up the Ardbeg. Almost all these bottles open a little bit different. They usually have like a little pull tab, and yeah, go ahead and do that. And I have a pair of cups from an entirely different kind of whiskey, Tin Cup, which is an American whiskey. You can hear that ding a little bit. And so it's interesting that I saved those for this kind of thing. So let's give the Ardbeg a pop. You can definitely smell the peatiness in it. Now this, if you guys saw my Octomore review, this is the next one behind that. The Ardbeg brand of Scotch is the next peatiest behind the Octomore. They measure it in parts per million, like how much peat was involved in the process. And this, I don't know if it says so on this bottle, but it's pretty hefty. It's usually like 40 to 50 parts per million, that kind of thing, whereas the Octomore was 140 parts per million, which is a big difference. So this is the next peaty one down. This is going to be closer probably to the Bruichladdich Port Charlotte that I really enjoy as well, which is currently my favorite whiskey of all time. So I'm going to go ahead and pour that in there. That's on that side, the Ardbeg. Now let's pop open the Glenfiddich. Now the Glenfiddich is interesting because they have a bottle shape that's different from most other bottles. They have a triangular bottle shape, which is definitely unique. Very nice presentation. Not that the Ardbeg is any slouch, but it's just a really nice bottle type compared to some of the other ones, and it's something that's unique to Glenfiddich compared to some other ones. So let's pop that cork. Definitely a bit different. It still has it almost has a little bit of a smoky peatiness to it, but you can definitely smell more of the fruitiness from the sherry casks. Yeah, definitely a different feel on the nose there. And it looks different too. There's definitely a difference in color, and the bottles don't lend much. Like the Ardbeg is a really dark bottle, so I can't get you a good look at how that looks, and I probably could have used a glass so you could see the coloring a little bit better. But the Glenfiddich is a darker, rosier kind of look, whereas the Ardbeg is a little bit more golden in color, which is another bit of kind of calling card for where these whiskeys come from. Now I'm going to add just a couple drops of water to open up the palate, open up the flavonoids, so to speak, on each of these. Wipe up my spill that I just spilled there. Abuse. Just a little drop of water to each one. Not enough to really dilute it, just to cause a chemical reaction and kind of open it up a little bit. So, let's start with the Ardbeg. Definitely some peat in there. Definitely a lot of peat. Definitely some warmth in there. I'm getting a taste that's almost like after it's been raining in the woods and you're kind of going camping, which is another kind of thing I say a lot about peaty whiskeys, because they have they feel like camping to me, because the taste is like a campfire, and this is like the smell of freshly rained on sticks and leaves and mulch, kind of in the woods. Not like a fertilizer kind of mulchy smell, like a good, like after the rain you go walking in the woods and you kind of get that smell. This has a taste that's reminiscent of that. It kind of gets up in there. It doesn't burn very much either. It's not a bit of a heater. It's kind of a cooler, like the Laphroaig. Laphroaig I've described as a cold night around a bonfire, whereas stuff like the Port Charlotte and the Octomore is more like a warm night around a bonfire, where it's like it's a warming sensation. And this gives you a little bit of warmth in the belly, just like a good whiskey does. But it definitely is more of a cooler seeming experience. This would be something that I would probably want to drink on a camping trip, where it's like just the beginning of fall, where it's just started to cool down and it's a little chilly, and maybe you got a light jacket but you're not freezing, and overnight it's not going to freeze you out of your tent or anything like that, and you can have a nice campfire and be warmed up. This is that kind of a whiskey to me. It is very peaty, but I think people who are not big peat drinkers might enjoy this a little bit, because it's not too bad. It doesn't smack you in the face with it. You get that definite peat taste, but you have another whiskey taste kind of on the outside. Yep. Yeah, it definitely reminds me of rainy days walking through the woods out back in my parents' place out in Pennsylvania. Yep. You can taste some oak in there, so they probably used oak barrels for sure. Yeah, it's good though. I really like this. I really like the Ardbeg. I'm a big fan. And I want to move on and compare it to the Glenfiddich, but I don't want to let this sit. I want to finish this, but I don't want to drink it all at once. I got a glass of water here that you saw. I got some drops to go in there to kind of cleanse the palate. If you're doing a tasting of any kind, if you go to a tasting event, then usually you'll have like 3 or 4 different whiskeys all lined up. And if you don't have something to kind of cleanse your palate a little bit, the tastes will all run together. And water is one of the most direct things you can do. Or if you have like a small piece of bread or a cracker of some kind or something like that. And I'm more of a, if I'm going to do a palate cleanser, I prefer having a little bit of water because it's neutral and everything like that. So kind of keeps everything balanced. But yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of the Ardbeg now that I finally had a chance to taste it. Now it's not necessarily cheap. This is one of the lower end of their lineup, and it's fly season around here in Ohio, by the way, and I've got cracks in my walls all over the place, so I got a fly here or there. This was, I think this was about 60. I think. Both of these are pretty close in price. They're very comparable in the $60 to $70 range. So, again, not particularly cheap. It's not something I'll probably buy every single week because, I mean, I don't have $60 to shell out every week. Pardon me. But still, real good stuff. The Ardbeg Ultimate, which is the 10-year. Good stuff. Let me finish it off here. I like that. I like that a lot. Get some water to clean that out a little bit. I kind of want to keep that mouthfeel a little bit. It's good stuff. So that's the Ardbeg. Now, on to the Glenfiddich. Now, the Glenfiddich, like I said, is from the Highlands. And Glenfiddich, on the back of their little container here, it means Valley of the Deer in Gaelic. Which is interesting. Interesting stuff. I like having a good story attached to my whiskeys also. Like I like having individual little stuff about it. Like the Ardbeg says that it's revered around the world as the peatiest, smokiest, most complex whiskey of all. Maybe Dr. Moore has a beat there, but it talks about Islay as an antique land where Celtic monks found a refuge from raiding Norsemen. Interesting stuff. But the Glenfiddich, of course, is from the Highlands. It says that it is proudly independent, family owned and run, 5 generations and counting. And they've been going strong since 1887. So a good pedigree there. So, let's see. Let's take a sniff. Yep. Definitely a lot more rosy, a lot more fruit smelling. A lot more fruity smelling, probably from the sherry casks, because a lot of your higher end scotches that aren't in the realm of the peat tend to have tend to be matured in sherry casks. It's a pretty common thing. And what that means is, for anybody who doesn't know, it's casks and barrels that have previously held sherry, which is kind of like wine. It's another spirit. It's held sherry, and then they when they're done with that, they ship them off to Scotch makers, and Scotch whiskey makers would generally reuse them and char them a little bit, and that kind of thing. Some distilleries use new barrels, some use old barrels, some continuously reuse barrels over and over. Pardon me. And it's an interesting story. I have some documentaries that I'm going to post up in the on the page very soon, so you can kind of watch and get some knowledge on whiskey, specifically Scotch making, and I might try to find some more that are more whiskey in general. So here's the Glenfiddich. We'll take a look at that. That's definitely different. It does not have the peat taste, of course. This has a sharper, but not too sharp, almost like melon, almost like a melon taste, like a melon ball. Not like watermelon, but like those, and not like a cantaloupe, but like the green ones, the green melons, the really pale green. It almost has that kind of taste to it as it's going back. Almost, yeah, real mild, kind of like that, like a melon ball. Definitely different from the Ardbeg. Definitely a big difference in taste profiles. Not very much as far as smokiness goes. Like I'm not getting all that much smoke at all. So they must have not have really charred the barrels very much on this one. And it gives you a little bit more mouth numbness than the Ardbeg does, but not a lot. Not like you know how sometimes you'll, if you're a whiskey drinker and you grab Jack Daniels, and Jack Daniels gives you that instant like, oh man, my mouth is almost completely numb from that first taste, just because it hits like real sharp. It has a very mild bit of that kind of thing, but not terrible. My taste buds are still in a pretty good shape, and I definitely, um, yeah, I'm getting melon ball, melon ball, which is a weird thing. People wonder about like I myself will see big whiskey reviewers, like people who do tastings all the time, and they'll have these super long descriptions about, oh, it smells like pecans and toffee in your grandmother's living room on the nose, and I'm just like, okay, I'm not getting any of that, but okay. And then they'll go on to say the zest of orange peel with a mud flap that you took off the nearest truck combined with a cheesecake that sat out for a week in the mouthfeel. And I'm like, none of that really sounds appetizing. I certainly don't want that in my whiskey. But when I drink it, I do occasionally get a flavor of something that reminds me of something else. Um, like I had recently, I had some Glenmorangie, which is another Highland Scotch, non-peaty Scotch, and I had their introductory, um, which is it comes in like a yellow labeled bottle, and it had the finish of it left a feeling like almost like you had eaten something chocolatey, like a really dense chocolate something, like almost a German chocolate cake. And they have another, they have a vintage called A Tale of Cake, which was distilled by one of their distillers because he was a big fan of cake all through his life. He loved it. Like as a little kid, he loved birthday cake and he liked all these different things. So he tried to make a whiskey that exemplified those flavors. And when you taste it, because I've had that before, and it's a bit expensive. It's definitely in the 100 plus range. So I don't, I wouldn't recommend just going out and trying to get some. And it's hard to find. It's limited. The prices are just going to keep on going up at this point, since it was just a one-off. It's not something they're going to keep making every so often. But when you taste it, the finish definitely feels like an angel food cake. Like you get that taste that lingers in the back of your throat that's like an angel food cake. So this, by contrast, the Glenfiddich 15 has lemon. No lemon. I can't taste any lemon. As melon balls. Melon balls. Yeah. Yeah. Definite melon ball taste to it. And it's good. I like the Ardbeg better because I'm a peat fan. And I like the Islay taste, the overall Islay flavor profile. Because Bruichladdich is from the island. Ardbeg is from there. Um, and a few other, not very many. There's a couple other distilleries from there. But I like that primarily. But this isn't bad. This is not bad at all for a Highlands whiskey, a Highland Scotch. I'm pretty impressed with it. I like it. Um, Again, it's pricier. It's up in like the $60-$70 range at a minimum, depending on where you go and where you get it. I got these at my local grocery store here in Ohio. Some of my other ones that you've seen, like the Octomore, I've had to do special order. A lot of my really particular things I have to special order. Especially with the virus restrictions and things, it's a lot more difficult to go to the liquor store and just look at what they have and browse, because nobody really wants you to browse. They want you to get in and get out and get your stuff. And that's understandable. I'm not going to make like a commentary about that. But most of my particular things are special order. And so they're not easy to get a hold of because you can't find them around here. I have a couple other things that are kind of waiting in the wings that aren't sold locally here that I had to order, and I'm going to be doing some reviews of that coming up. And but a lot of the things that probably myself and Rob will be doing for our regular episodes will be stuff that we can get locally for the most part. We might have a special thing that comes up every so often, but we're going to try to focus on local distillers or local brewers, or at least local distributors, so that we can focus on what we can get here in Ohio. So, let me finish off the Glenfiddich. It is good. It is good. You get that definite melon ball flavor. Like you go to a fancy party and they got those melon ball scoops, and you're just like, "Oh, these look delicious." I don't go to fancy parties. Get some water here. But yeah, so that's the Ardbeg, the Islay Peat Scotch versus the Highlands Glenfiddich Scotch. 10 years versus 15 years. Both very good. Both very good. I want to say that right off the bat. I enjoyed them both. And I hope if you guys try them, you will let me know what you think about them, because I would love to hear your thoughts on what you think is the superior whiskey out of these two. And I'm going to be doing little whiskey battles like this once in a while, where it's just going to be one versus the other, and I'm going to be reviewing 2 in 1. Ooh, pardon me. Giving me some indigestion. But out of the two, I prefer the Ardbeg, but I would not turn my nose at the Glenfiddich. I would not, if somebody came at me and be like, "Hey, have some Glenfiddich," I would shake their hand and say, "Why, yes, sir or madam," or anywhere in between. I would love some Glenfiddich. Thank you so much. So while I would prefer the Ardbeg, I will not in a million years kick out the Glenfiddich. Okay? So that's that. Let me know what you guys think. If you've had either one of these, or if you have some other thoughts that you want to communicate to me, comment on this video. I'd love to hear it. If you have something that you want me to try live on the air, if I can get it, I will get it, and I will try it just for you. You, right there, in the back. Yep, you. So, if you're interested, let me know. Just leave a comment on this video, and cheers.